So it's now my pleasure to introduce the keynote speaker. And at EMS today, we have heard your opinions about our keynote loudly and clearly. You want someone who speaks EMS, someone who walks among us, someone who can inspire, motivate, and captivate an audience. And many of you know Rom Duckworth. He is a career paramedic, EMS coordinator for the Ridgefield, Connecticut Fire Department. And for 30 years, Rommie has been an educator, author, speaker, and member of both volunteer and career departments. And I'm not going to regurgitate what you could read about him in the program app or in the written program. Many of you have probably heard Rommie speak, and those of you who have not will understand in a few moments why I asked him to be our EMS Today keynote. But let me tell you some things about Rommie that you can't look up. I've known Rommie for almost 30 years that he's been involved in EMS. I've encouraged him to write and to speak at conferences, and I've volunteered him for a lot more things than I think he really wanted to do. But in my eyes, Rommie Duckworth's greatest attribute is that he is a true friend. His wife Betsy and his son Dash, who are here today, have also become great friends of mine. All of them have stood and walked with me in good times and in bad. And I truly appreciate Rommie as an educator, an author, a very animated speaker, a person, and as a friend. And I know that you will appreciate what he has to say to you this morning. Please help me welcome Rom Duckworth.
Thank you, Mike. You're a true friend, and I appreciate this opportunity to address our EMS community. I'd also like to thank a few other people who helped me in my career overall, as well as to be here with you today. Certainly, one of the people from the very beginning of my career as a mentor, as a teacher, and as my career blossomed to EMS education, James Cooper. I want to thank you. More recently, for my career where it is now, and to understand where we as EMS need to go in the future, Bill Atkinson, I want to thank you very much as well. And most importantly, as we all rely on our friends and family, they're the ones who support me every day. I want to thank my brother and sisters. I want to thank my mom, and most importantly, I want to thank my wife and my son Dash for being there for me every single day. But most importantly, I have to thank you, the attendees, because you're the ones who have come all this way to listen and learn, to practice. And this is where it's really important, not just to learn this information, not just to pick up some tips and tricks, but to bring them back to your home organizations where it's really going to make things better in your community. My name is Rom Duckworth, and I'm a paramedic. For over 30 years, I've been in career and volunteer fire departments, hospital-based healthcare, public and private and commercial EMS, and what that really says is that I can't hold down a job. Well, I can't hold down one job. I can hold down like 3 jobs because EMS. Like many of you who've been doing this for a while, I've seen a lot of weird stuff in that time. On the one hand, for me, I've probably not done as many really bad pediatric calls as you would think. But on the other, I've managed to find myself as kind of a magnet for an unusual number of large-scale disasters. The first in the 90s was Hurricane Andrew. More recently, 3 school bus crash at our local high school with over 200 patients. And I led a team operating adjacent to World Trade Center Tower 2 on September 11, 2001. In reflecting on this, I begun to realize that these aren't just calls that I've been on. This isn't just a job I do. This is who I am. I wasn't brought up in emergency services, but I found it. And I've learned from dealing with and interacting with a lot of you, this is who we are. I see this as the role we typically play in our families. We're the family fixers. I mean, how many of you have had this phone call? Hello? What? No, don't call me, call 911. Wait, let me find out who's working first. Whatever color uniform we wear, we share both the satisfaction and the burden of serving those in our communities. Every day, we deal with new personal and professional challenges, and sometimes we struggle to find the mental, physical, and emotional strength that we will need to meet the difficulties that we face every day. Often, we eat and drink too much, we exercise and sleep too little. Add to that the physical and psychological stresses of the job, and we find ourselves in a profession that will grind us up if we're not careful. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to make sure we're talking about mental health screenings, mental health resources, cancer screenings. It's up to us to make sure that those resources are here. But for today, I want you to know that when you feel you don't have the strength to stand alone, we must find the strength within us as a family, and truly a family of emergency responders and healthcare providers, working to care for our patients and our communities as we watch out for each other. I believe that part of being able to find the strength in us is being able to articulate the value of EMS. What is the value of EMS? I think it's the fact that we provide a dynamic workforce helping to manage, deliver on-site emergency medical care and manage emergency scenes in a ridiculous variety of environments at any time of the day and night. We don't care about your race, creed, background, or ability to pay. All we care about is that you need help. We hold a special place in our communities because of this. We get to go in people's houses. We get to see things, as was said earlier. We get to see things that other people don't get to see, that other people shouldn't have to see. And we're motivated to do this not because of the attractive pay and benefits package. We do this because we believe this has value, and yet we still undervalue it. I want to share something personal with you. This is a call that really opened my eyes to the difference we make as EMS providers and professionals. It happened on Thanksgiving, a little more than 10 years ago. We'd all finished a big Thanksgiving meal at the station, and we're just about to settle in for a long winter's nap. When a call came in for shortness of breath, we responded 4 people, 2 on an ambulance, 2 on an engine. I was working double medic on the ambulance that night. We arrived to find an older couple having Thanksgiving dinner alone. The wife meets us at the door, says, yes, my husband was having shortness of breath. Right after he finished dinner, he wasn't feeling really well. And I'm going to tell you, he was a big guy. So you're going to tell me where he was in the house. Second floor, right, second floor. But what room specifically? That's right, he was in the bathroom. Now you tell me exactly where in the bathroom we found him. On the toilet, and if we really want to get down to a call you've never heard of before, he was actually between the toilet and the... That's right, exactly, because EMS. We see right away this guy is not doing well. So we initiate care right in place. I ask my partners, look, you get him out of the bathroom, work him on the way down. I'm going to go out, get in the ambulance. I'm going to start getting things set up because we are going to need to do a lot of work here. I ask my captain to help the wife with whatever she needs for the trip to the hospital so that she's ready to go and she doesn't feel rushed, even though we're moving quickly and coordinated. He comes into the back of my ambulance, and he continues to struggle to breathe as we continue to struggle to help him. It was all that we could do to maintain his oxygen saturation, and we fought to intubate him and to do something that would turn him around. Eventually, and I tell you this is not common for me in the back of the ambulance. This was one of those calls where I was looking out the window to see how far from the hospital we were. We get him handed over at the hospital, and unfortunately, they struggled as much as we did. It was incredibly frustrating for me as I packed up our gear, got ready to get things going, and I see the patient's wife down the hall. And I couldn't do anything but go over and talk to her and tell her, look, we did everything that we could, and things don't seem to be turning around, and things do not look good. I tried to be encouraging, but I had to be realistic. We did everything we could in the back of the ambulance, but we had failed to turn things around. And that's the only word for how it felt, that we had failed. I had failed as a paramedic. I had failed as a person. I had failed as a human being whose literal job it is to help someone else, and I had failed. I did what we do. Put the ambulance back together. I got back in service. I got on with my shift, and we did more calls that night. And as frustrated as I was, I didn't think about it too much until a few weeks later when I get this exact letter. I'll read it to you. This is a very small token I offer with more appreciation and gratitude than I could put into words. 4 or 5 emergency medical personnel arrived at our house at about 9:30 on Thanksgiving evening. I had called about my husband, Ed, and, no surprise, you arrived speedily and went to work trying to make the situation a better one. Despite everyone's efforts, Ed died the next evening at the hospital. I have yet to begin to believe that this has happened, but what I will not forget ever is the kindness of all of you, some of whose names I didn't even ever know. But Mike and Rom spoke to me in the emergency room and wished us well. My thanks were heartfelt, but my appreciation felt inadequate compared to the compassion you had shown all of us. She felt inadequate. She goes on, I experienced a similar event in August of 1988 when we lived on another street. You rushed my first husband to the hospital, where he also subsequently died a day and a half later. I would like to emphasize for the record, that was not my call. She goes on, so much of the sting is taken out of crises like this when one has no doubt that everyone involved has done absolutely everything he or she possibly could. Despite the fact that the outcome in each case was not the one I wanted, I am left with no resentments or recriminations, and that is an enormous gift. I'm so grateful to have lived in Ridgefield for 35 years and to know that we can count on you to help when we need it. Bless each one of you. Know that our family thanks you. Joanna. Whether you realize it or not, every single one of you, I know every single one of you has a story like this. We don't always get the letter, we don't always get the card. But I want you to think right now, how many lives do you affect if every call you go on, you meet a patient, maybe their significant other or a spouse, a bystander, what, 3 people per call? You make better? Say you do 3 calls per day, 3 days a week, plus 3 on Sunday. That's 30 people a week. That's 1,560 people per year, and you are affecting their lives in a positive manner. And they say paramedics can't do math. Multiply that by the people in here, and that's 500,000 people per year, every year, just for us. That is the strength within us. We don't just run calls. We serve communities. We serve people. We help families, and there is nothing in the world more valuable than that. I need you to know and understand and remember that. Here at EMS today, we're going to talk about emergency care, and we do both, the emergency and the care. And that's tough. I'm not going to lie to you. There are some difficult challenges ahead for EMS. There's some controversies. What do we call ourselves? EMS, mobile intensive health care, pre-hospital emergency care? Do we need degrees to do what we do? Do we fall under the category of public safety, public health, health care? Do we give epi? Here, in 1968, when they did the first research on administering epi for resuscitation, the conclusions, further studies are needed to meet the optimal combination of drugs, ventilation, CPR, and shock in resuscitation. Surely, In 1968, they thought, we've got to do some more research, but by 2020, they'll have it figured out, right? We have a lot more to figure out, and the problems didn't just start today. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard work to make things better. But Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't give a speech that said, I have a lot of problems. He said, I have a dream, and that's where we have to start. My dream for EMS is for a diverse but unified service that's part of a whole system providing immediate care to anyone, anytime, anywhere, using tools and techniques that have been proven, are evidence-based to improve patient outcome. And I'm not the only one. I want you to take a look at the EMS agenda for 2050. See what EMS should be in 30 years. And that may seem like a long way off, but I've been in EMS for 30 years, and I could tell you it goes like that. Number one, safe and effective. Not just for the patients, not for improved patient care, although it is that, but safe and effective also for us, the providers. Integrated, and again, not just talking about integrated with the whole health system when the patient is on a clinical pathway, but integrated as in we have a seat at the table, that we're involved in the budgets and the resources and the policies and the protocols. Reliable and prepared. Not for calls the way they were 5, 10, 20 years ago, but reliable and prepared for every new emerging threat, because it will always be our responsibility to protect the public. Equitable, because it should not make a difference who you are or where you live to see if you get the best emergency care. Sustainable and efficient, because we're never going to get all of the resources that we want or need. We're going to have to learn how to do it well and efficiently. But most importantly, for us today, right here at EMS today, adaptable and innovative, because that's who we are and that's where we are, and that's how we can start right now. And I mean right now. This is where we need to be. This is what we need to be. But we will never accomplish this if EMS in the United States remains as ridiculously fractured and isolated as we currently are. Who's to blame? Who got us in this mess? At this point, who cares? We certainly have a lot of mistakes to learn from the past, but the important thing is our focus on the future. It doesn't matter the size of your organization. That's not what we're talking about. There is a fragility in I and me, but there is a strength in us as the global EMS community, as emergency responders everywhere. And it may hurt. We may have to give a little, and it may be tough to give and to work with people that maybe we don't like and we don't always get along with. But we're going to get a lot back if we can learn to work together better than we do right now. Henry Ford said, coming together is a beginning. Staying together is progress. Working together is success. If we're going to have success, we may not have all the resources we want, but we have a lot of the resources to get a lot further than we are right now. But we need to work together. And you can learn and study and practice to be the best individual EMT or paramedic in the whole world, but it will not help you if you're still working in a broken system. I wish I could give you all of the answers. I wish I could wave a magic wand and give you all the resources you need, but I can't. And I don't like that. And that should feel uncomfortable for you. I want it to feel uncomfortable. If you come to some of the education sessions here at EMS today and we leave you feeling comfortable, we have failed to do our job. Being uncomfortable is the first step. It means that you're aware of the challenges that we're facing and you're getting ready to solve them. You're getting ready to at least do something about it. People who are comfortable don't do anything. They sit back. They don't lean forward. They don't rise up. If you're here just to consume oxygen and expel carbon dioxide for the required amount of time to get your continuing education credits, there are a lot of places you can do that. This is not one of them. You demand more of us, so we demand more of us. I want you to feel challenged. I want you to feel motivated. I don't want you to feel like we're only saying, here are a bunch of problems, figure it out. I want you to feel empowered and encouraged to do something about it. I want you to recognize the power that you already have and be ready to change the EMS landscape, because nothing less will do. For example, because I want to give you concrete examples. In my own department, we're doing training on apnic oxygenation. Relatively new to us. Not brand new, but relatively new to us. And for those of you who aren't aware, it's high-flow oxygen in a nasal cannula. Increasing the concentration of oxygen helps maintain oxygen saturation during intubation. Okay? It's a new thing. So I ask everybody, we teach them the who, how, what, where, why, when, and all of that. And I say, you know, as an educator and as an officer, I want to make it easy for people to do the right thing. So what do we need to do here? They said, first of all, it's new, we're on board, but we may need to be reminded to do it. Okay, we're going to have to put in some kind of prompt. They say, you know, this is equipment we're going to have to assemble and put different equipment in from all over the place. So we brainstormed it right there, and we came up with, why don't we put the Untitled CO2 15mm adapter right in with the bag valve mask. We put the Untitled CO2 in because they're supposed to use that. We put a nasal cannula in with the BVM package. I contacted our supplier, Medical Warehouse, and they said, yeah, sure, no problem, we can do that for you. They're reminded, everything is right there, on hand, and we've made the world a better place. At least a little better, for one thing, in our service. But that's how it starts, and that's what you can do. And if we're all doing it together, that's us solving problems. This is what I'm talking about. But maybe you have different problems. Maybe you're trying to capture different opportunities. What I can do, what EMS today can offer you, is information and inspiration. I want you to leave here informed and inspired by those around you, able to make better decisions for yourself, for your service, and by doing that, help move our profession forward as a whole. Informed. Who has more than 10 years of experience in emergency services? Stand up, please, if you can. Excellent. All right. Thank you. Oh, keep standing. Who's got more than 20 years? Stay standing. More than 30 years? Who's got more than 40 years? Okay, first of all, great job in being able to stand. And thank you. A round of applause for our pioneers in EMS. Respect. Respect. These are the people who have been doing it. These are the people who got it started and are still making it work. If I could have the lights back up just for another moment, please. The house lights. Who has a successful recruitment and retention program? Raise your hand. A couple of people. All right. Who started up a community paramedicine program or been a part of it? All right. Who uses point-of-care ultrasound or is in the process of putting that in? Who's improved the rate of neurologically intact survival from cardiac arrest in their area? All right. When I say informed, this is what I'm talking about. Not just the educators, but the people in this room. There are plenty of people out there doing these things right now and doing them really, really well. If it exists in EMS, there is someone at this conference who has it and wants to share it with you. And if it doesn't exist, then there are people here who are working hard to make it a reality through research and pilot projects. That's the strength in us. When I say us, I'm not talking about experts or officers or chiefs or white shirts. No matter how many plungers you have on your collar, it doesn't matter. Strength in us. Individually, we could become uncomfortable, frustrated, frightened, and angry. But with the support of the people in this room, we can help you move things forward. This isn't just a job for the leaders in EMS. This is a job for each one of you. Every single one of you is a representative of us. And I'm talking to you, and you, and you, and you, and the people in every single corner of this room. I'm not saying these words just for people to hang back and listen to. I'm telling you that every single person in this room has the power and strength to join together with the other people who we've already highlighted to make things happen. That's the strength within us. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. None of us have all the answers, but together we have a lot of the answers. And these answers can make a real difference in the lives of our patients, our communities, and each other. I'm not saying we have to change every time a new thing comes up or every new idea that comes by. But I'm saying we have to be comfortable with the idea of change. This isn't a matter of saying, well, I'm acknowledging that the things we've done in the past were wrong. We need to focus on the future. It's a matter of being able to be mature enough to say, I've learned, and I want to work with you now. I want to make it happen. Be informed not just by the educators, but by the people in this room who are ready, willing, and able to share so that you can build on their successes. But it takes more. Inspired. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I certainly don't have all the answers. I feel like it's a win if I wake up and I get half of the questions right. I take my inspiration from a man that many of you may not have heard of. Kano Jigoro was the founder of judo, and he was the ultimate master of his craft. When he died, he was not buried in his master's black belt. He insisted on being buried in his white belt so that he remained forever a student of his art. And that's where we have to be to succeed. No matter where you are in your career, you have to remain a student, open to new information and new inspiration. Now I'm talking to the people just at the beginning of your careers. If we could have the lights one more time. If you have less than 10 years in EMS, stand up, please. See how much faster that was? If you have less than 5, still stay standing. And a round of applause. Thank you. You can sit back down. You don't know what you're in for. You see, I'm talking specifically to you now. The rest of us, we have bad habits. You don't have those habits yet. We need you to help us break our bad habits. We're going to need your enthusiasm and energy to make it happen. It takes more than just knowing what to do. We need your inspiration and your energy. There are 207 bones in the human body you learned in your EMT class. But there are only 4 bones that you need to care about in any EMS organization. There are the wish bones who just wish that things would get better. They're the jaw bones who talk and talk and talk about what they're going to do. They're the knuckle bones who wait and are ready to knock down anybody who's going to try and start something new. But most importantly, they're the backbones who get up under the workload and raise the organization up no matter how hard the work is. And for those of you here and those of you who can hear my voice, you're a self-selected group that I know is the backbone of your organization. That's why I'm focusing this message on you. If we're going to transform EMS into what it needs to be, it's going to require us to do things like we have never done them before. As we move from a as we move from a skills-focused trade to science-driven clinical care, we're going to have to work together like never before. We're going to have to invent new technologies. We're going to have to change EMS education. We're going to have people who have never wanted to work together, not only work together, but demand a higher level of excellence than we've ever achieved in EMS. And if that seems like something impossible, I have to tell you, we've done it before. 50 years and 8 months ago, only 125 miles from here, we launched the ship that landed men on the moon. That had never been done before. That required new technology. That required an overhaul in education. That required people who had never worked before together to demand a level of excellence in each other that had never been seen before. And many said that it could not be done. But we were the first people ever to leave this planet and stand somewhere else in our galaxy. We're Americans, and that's how we do it. When something is important to us, we dedicate the people and the resources that we need to get it done. In the space race, we were faced with tremendous challenges, and we rose to meet that challenge. And now I'm issuing you the challenge in EMS. To reduce deaths from trauma, to improve resuscitation rates, to reduce time to treatment for stroke and sepsis and more. Not simply to change some numbers, but because the numbers that you change are lives that are changing, lives of the people around you. Take what you learn at EMS today and affect that change for real people in the real world. That's what matters. This is the job that we're faced with. Not just running calls, but transforming the way we do business. It's going to take real commitment and hard work, but take inspiration from one of the greatest figures in sports. Muhammad Ali said, "I don't count the sit-ups. I only start counting when it starts hurting because they're the only ones that count." That's what makes you a champion. We need champions in EMS, the people who aren't afraid to actually do the work. People ask me how long it takes the average person to become an EMT. And I say, the average person won't make it in EMS. Are you ready to do the job? Not just run calls, but make a real and lasting difference. Paramedics, can you do the job? EMTs, can you do the job? Career, can you do the job? Volunteers, can you do the job? Can we do it together? You sound more confident than I am, but all right. But that's the trick. We need to be ready to stand up for this. We need to be ready to rise up to the challenge, or we're going to get run over. When I say the strength within us, I really mean us, all of us, and it's going to take all of us together. Not just our little tribes. We have a lot more in common than we have to gripe about. If we can't get it together, then other people are going to be making decisions about how we run our organizations, and we're not going to like where we find ourselves. We have the power to make the difference, though. We all have things to contribute. MD, PhD, GED, I don't care. We just cannot remain fractured, fragmented, and isolated like we have been. Like Mike said, join a national organization. Work with other healthcare and emergency services to help local, state, and federal representatives understand the needs of EMS and help us get where we need to be. Does that excite you? Yeah. It should. We need to train together, work together, and not be bickering over the little issues that are tiny in the face of the challenges that we have. We're going to need to transform our profession for our communities, our families, and ourselves. And I know it's tough. I know that sometimes it's all we can do to keep the wheels on the ambulances. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to raise your hand if you believe that you have a loved one that's going to need to be cared for EMS within the next 5 years. I want you to raise your hand if you have a loved one that's going to need to be cared for by EMS providers within the next 30 years. Let's pick that as our time frame. Where does EMS have to be then? Where does EMS have to be at the level that you're going to demand for the proper care of those loved ones, or for yourself? We have to ask ourselves, what do we have to do to make this happen? Because we have to start today. I know we have our work cut out for us. In EMT class, in paramedic class, the EMS educators have lied to you. And I know because I am one. They let you think that the day you pass your final practical and your final written, you've earned the patch. What they don't tell you is that you have to continue to earn that patch every single day. When you come to EMS today, and you attend a class, and you learn something, and you get going, and you improve yourself, you've earned the patch. When you bring that back to your service and you share that with others, you've earned the patch. When you move your service forward, and by moving your service forward, move our profession forward, you have earned the patch. You have to earn that patch every single day, but you are not alone. We are here for you, and I mean literally, we are here for you. The people right next to you, I'd like you to take a look at the people who are right next to you. If something happens to you, this is who's going to take care of you and your loved ones. And I don't just mean on an emergency call. I mean if things go really bad. If things go really bad, these are the people who are going to help your spouse, your kids, your parents, who are maybe going to help pay for heating, help you split firewood. These are the people who are going to put your name on a t-shirt to help make sure that your mortgage gets paid. Would you do that for them? Yeah, I think you would. That's the strength in us. There it is. With that support, with the information and the inspiration that we get right here, we are going to be able to make the changes we need to take ourselves, our services, and our profession where it needs to be. We need to come together. We need to stay together. We need to work together. We need you to not just sit back, but lean forward. I need you to not just lean forward, but to rise up. I need you to rise up, and together we will bring EMS to the next level, to make the world better for our patients, to make the world better for our families, to make the world better for each other, to make the world better for EMS starting today, because that is the strength in us, and that is how EMS gets the job done. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Good?